Lila wiped her hands on the apron and glanced around the small diner, checking on her last table before her shift ended. The evening rush was finally slowing down, and the golden light from the street lamps outside bathed the room in a warm glow. She had been working at Millie's diner for almost a year now, balancing school and her part-time job. It wasn't easy, but Lila liked the independence it gave her. Plus, she loved talking to the regulars, even if some of them had the habit of lingering for hours over a cup of coffee. The bell above the door jingled, and Lila looked up, expecting one of the usual customers. Instead, she noticed a young man standing just outside on the sidewalk, looking tense. Lila frowned slightly, sensing that something was off. He had a backpack slung over his shoulder, and his eyes darted nervously around the street. She was about to go back to the counter when she heard a commotion. A group of older boys had cornered the young man, and it became clear that they were trying to snatch his bag. Without thinking, Lila set down the order pad she had been holding and rushed toward the door. "Hey!" she shouted, her voice sharp and loud enough to startle both the young man and the group of boys. The boys froze for a moment, looking surprised that anyone had noticed. Lila planted herself firmly between the boys and the young man, her heart pounding in her chest. "Leave him alone," she yelled again, more forcefully this time. She could see the fear in the young man's eyes, and it fueled her courage. The boys hesitated, muttering under their breath, but they weren't ready to back down yet. Lila took a step forward, trying to look bigger and more intimidating than she felt. She clenched her fists, ready to defend the stranger if it came to that. The young man, sensing that Lila was serious, took a step back toward the safety of the diner. He looked at her, eyes wide, as if trying to understand who she was and why she was risking herself for him. Lila ignored the nerves twisting in her stomach. She couldn't just stand by and watch someone get hurt or robbed. The diner's windows reflected her determined expression, and she used every ounce of courage to hold her ground. Finally, one of the boys sneered, realizing they were being watched, and muttered something about leaving it for another time. The others exchanged uneasy glances. Lila didn't give them a chance to change their minds. "Go on, get out of here," she shouted, waving her arms to show them she meant business. With a final scowl, the boys turned and ran down the street, disappearing into the shadows. The young man let out a breath he hadn't realized he had been holding. He looked at Lila, his face a mix of relief and disbelief. "Thank you," he said softly, his voice steady but filled with gratitude. Lila shook her head, brushing it off. "I just did what anyone would do," she replied, trying to sound casual, though her heart was still racing. He smiled faintly, holding out a few bills from his wallet. "Please, at least take this. It's not much, but it's for helping me." Lila waved him off again. "No, really, you don't have to. I'm just glad you're okay." But he insisted, pressing the money into her hand before she could protest further. Lila tucked it into her apron pocket, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. Not from the money, but from the connection she felt in that moment. As the young man stepped into the diner to catch his breath, Lila offered him a glass of water and a seat at a small table near the window. He accepted gratefully, loosening the straps of his backpack and setting it carefully beside him. Lila brought him a cup of water and placed it on the table. He sipped slowly, finally able to relax. They exchanged a few words, but neither of them felt the need to speak much. Sometimes gratitude and relief didn't require long conversations. Lila glanced around to make sure no one else had witnessed the incident too closely. Most of the other customers had either left or were busy with their own conversations, leaving the diner feeling quiet and almost private. The young man's eyes met hers again, and he smiled faintly. "You were really brave," he said. "I don't know what I would have done without you." Lila shrugged, trying to appear modest, but she felt a strange mix of pride and humility. "I just saw someone in trouble," she said. "I couldn't just walk away." The young man nodded, clearly moved by her sincerity. There was something about the way she had acted that made him feel safe, even though they had only just met. After a few more moments, he thanked her again and stood up, adjusting his backpack. "I should get going. I don't want to keep you from your shift," he said. Lila smiled, feeling a little awkward now that the adrenaline had started to fade. "It's okay, go on. Stay safe, okay?" He nodded and headed for the door, pausing just long enough to wave before stepping out into the night. Lila watched him go, a sense of calm settling over her. She returned to the counter, trying to get back into her rhythm, but she couldn't help replaying the events in her mind. It was strange how quickly life could change in a single moment. One second she was finishing her shift like any other evening, and the next she had stood up to strangers and helped someone in need. Her manager, Millie, came out from the kitchen wiping her hands on her apron. She gave Lila a small knowing smile. "I saw that. Good job, kiddo," she said softly. Lila felt a flush of embarrassment mixed with pride. "Thanks," she muttered, returning to her work. Millie didn't press for details, and Lila was glad. She wasn't sure she wanted to talk about it too much. The memory of the young man's relieved expression was enough. The rest of her shift passed quietly. Lila served the remaining customers with a slightly lighter heart, her movements feeling more purposeful than before. When it was finally time to clock out, she hung her apron and stepped into the cool night air. The street was quiet and the sky was clear, dotted with stars. She took a deep breath, letting the tension of the evening drift away. As she walked home, Lila couldn't help thinking about the young man she had saved. Who was he? Where was he going? And why did she feel like this brief encounter mattered more than she could explain? She shook her head, smiling to herself. Life had a way of surprising you when you least expected it, and sometimes a small act of courage could create a ripple that changed everything. Lila reached her front door, unlocking it with a sense of quiet satisfaction. She put her keys down and leaned against the door for a moment, thinking about the night. She didn't know if she would ever see the young man again, but she felt a strange sense of anticipation, as if something was about to happen. Little did she know, their paths were destined to cross again much sooner than she imagined, and what had started as a simple act of helping someone in trouble would soon become the beginning of an unexpected friendship. That night, as Lila lay in bed, she replayed the scene in her mind. The fear in the young man's eyes, the look of surprise on the robbers' faces, and the way she had felt a rush of courage she didn't know she had. She realized that sometimes being brave wasn't about fighting or winning. It was about standing up for someone else, even when you were scared. And as she drifted off to sleep, a small smile lingered on her face. A quiet hope that maybe, just maybe, this encounter was the start of something meaningful, something that could change both their lives the next morning. Lila woke up to the sound of her alarm buzzing insistently. She stretched, trying to shake off the lingering excitement and nervous energy from the previous night. The memory of the young man outside the diner still played in her mind, especially the way his eyes had softened when she had stood up for him. She couldn't help but wonder what he was doing now, if he had made it home safely, and if she would ever see him again. School felt different that day. Lila usually walked through the hallways with her headphones in, lost in her own world, but today she felt more alert, more aware of her surroundings. Maybe it was the adrenaline from the night before, or maybe it was just the curiosity about the stranger whose life she had unknowingly touched. She carried her backpack, slipping into the familiar rhythm of her school morning, greeting friends with a small smile, though her mind was elsewhere. As she walked into her classroom, her heart skipped a beat. There, sitting near the window, was the same young man from the diner. He looked calm, almost casual, but there was no mistaking him. The way he adjusted his backpack and glanced around showed he was just as aware of her as she was of him. For a moment, Lila felt frozen, her pulse racing as she tried to process the coincidence. She wasn't sure whether to approach him or wait for him to notice her. He did notice her, and their eyes met. A faint smile formed on his face, a smile that carried recognition and a hint of gratitude. Lila smiled back nervously, feeling a strange mix of excitement and apprehension. She could feel the eyes of a few classmates on them, curious about the newcomer who seemed to belong to no one yet, everyone at once. Rumors would start, but neither of them cared about that. This was their moment, a silent acknowledgement of the previous night's events. After a few minutes, the teacher entered and the class began. Lila found it hard to concentrate, her mind wandering back to the diner and the strange, sudden connection. Illily she felt with this young man. His presence was comforting yet mysterious. She kept stealing glances, wondering if he would speak to her after class, and if so, what he would say. She didn't know his name yet, and she realized she wanted to know everything about him, slowly, without rushing. As the last bell rang and students began filing out, the young man approached her cautiously. "Hi," he said softly, almost hesitantly. "I'm Alex. I don't know if you remember me from last night outside the diner, but I just wanted to say thank you again. I'm really grateful." Lila blinked, her heart warming at the sound of his voice. "I remember. "I'm glad you're okay," she replied, feeling a natural ease in speaking to him despite the strangeness of the situation. Alex smiled, shifting slightly on his feet, clearly trying to figure out how to continue. "I just moved here recently," he explained. "I didn't expect to run into anyone who would help me so quickly. I wanted to find you today to say thank you properly." Lila felt a swell of pride and empathy. It wasn't every day someone came into your life so suddenly and left a mark in such a meaningful way. She nodded, realizing that kindness could forge unexpected connections, sometimes in ways that felt magical. The hallway was still buzzing with students, but Lila and Alex found themselves in a quiet corner. They talked in soft voices, introducing themselves more formally now, sharing small pieces of their lives. Lila learned that Alex had moved to this town because of his parents' work, and that adjusting to a new school had been harder than he anticipated. He had been carrying the weight of uncertainty and loneliness when she had stepped in. Lila felt a pang of sympathy, remembering her own experiences with feeling out of place or unsure in unfamiliar situations. For his part, Alex seemed genuinely interested in learning about Lila, asking about school, her work at the diner, and what she liked to do in her free time. She found herself opening up, telling him about her love for drawing, her weekend hikes, and the small joys she found in helping people at the diner. Alex listened attentively, occasionally nodding or asking thoughtful questions. There was a sincerity in him that felt rare, a quiet curiosity that made Lila feel heard and understood. By the time the lunch bell rang, they had already begun to build a subtle but strong connection. Lila offered to show Alex around the school, guiding him to the cafeteria and introducing him to a few classmates she trusted. Though Alex was shy, he responded warmly, and Lila noticed that his initial nervousness seemed to fade with each interaction. It was as if the act of meeting her again had given him a sense of grounding, a reassurance that even in a new place, someone cared enough to step forward when needed. After lunch, they returned to their classrooms, but the connection lingered in small ways. They shared quiet smiles across the room, whispered greetings in the hallway, and subtle nods of encouragement during lessons. Lila felt a new sense of excitement, one that wasn't tied to drama or gossip but to genuine interest and care. She realized that the night outside the diner had been more than just a chance encounter. It had opened a door to something meaningful, even if neither of them fully understood it yet. As the day continued, Lila noticed that Alex seemed to be adjusting well to school life. He asked questions, joined discussions, and even helped another student who had dropped their books in the hallway. Lila felt proud of him, and at the same time she recognized that she had played a small part in giving him the courage to navigate his new environment. It was a quiet, invisible ripple of kindness, one that neither of them could measure but both could feel. After school, Lila and Alex walked together toward the front gate. The conversation flowed naturally, touching on classes, hobbies, and funny incidents from their day. Lila felt a sense of ease and comfort she hadn't experienced with someone she barely knew. Alex's gratitude for her courage the night before was evident, but it was intertwined with genuine friendship, not obligation. They laughed over small jokes, shared thoughts about teachers, and even debated over which local hangouts were worth checking out. At the edge of the school, they paused, unsure of how to part ways. Alex turned to her and said, "Thanks again for last night. I know it sounds silly, but meeting you, it made a real difference. I feel like I'm not as lost here now." Lila smiled, feeling a warmth that spread through her chest. "I'm glad. I'm happy you're okay, Alex, and I think you'll do just fine here. You just need to give it a little time." He nodded, his expression thoughtful and appreciative. They waved goodbye, but both knew this was not the end of their story. Lila walked home slowly, reflecting on the events of the day. It felt strange, almost magical, how one act of courage had led to this new friendship. She thought about the ripples that kindness could create, how one small decision, stepping outside to help a stranger, could change the course of someone's life. For the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of hope and excitement about the future, about the people she might meet and the connections she could form. That evening, Lila returned to her routine at the diner, but her thoughts kept drifting to Alex. She wondered if he would come by again, if they would find more moments to share, and how this friendship would grow. She smiled quietly to herself, knowing that the previous night had been the beginning of something unexpected and meaningful. And though she didn't know exactly what the future held, she felt ready to face it, bolstered by the knowledge that a simple act of courage could spark a bond that neither distance nor time could easily break. As she closed the diner and headed home, Lila felt a sense of peace. The day had been ordinary in many ways, but the presence of Alex had turned it into something extraordinary. She realized that life often moved in ways that were unpredictable, and that sometimes the people you least expected to meet could leave the biggest mark on your heart. That night she fell asleep with a smile, quietly hoping that tomorrow would bring more moments like today, moments that reminded her that kindness, courage, and connection were never wasted. Over the next few days, Lila noticed Alex more and more at school. He seemed to be settling in, moving through the hallways with the quiet confidence that had been missing on his first day. Lila found herself looking for him between classes, wondering what he was doing, how he was feeling, and if he had been thinking about her as much as she had been thinking about him. Each encounter, even a simple wave or a shared smile, sent a small thrill through her, reminding her of the strange, wonderful connection that had started outside the diner. One morning, as Lila entered the classroom, she saw Alex already seated at a desk near the window. He looked up and waved, his smile warm and familiar. She returned the wave, feeling a little flutter in her stomach. Today, they had a group project in history class, and Lila was pleasantly surprised to find Alex assigned to her group. It felt almost like fate, though she didn't say it out loud. As the class began, Lila and Alex worked together seamlessly. They shared ideas, divided tasks, and encouraged each other. Alex had a way of making complex topics seem simple, and Lila found herself impressed by his thoughtful approach. She realized that she enjoyed working with him, not just because he was kind or grateful, but because he genuinely inspired her to think differently. During their break, they sat outside on the school benches, sharing snacks from their bags. Lila told him about her favorite spots in town, the small cafe where she liked to read, and the quiet park behind her neighborhood where she often went to sketch. Alex listened intently, asking questions that showed he was truly interested. He told her about the few friends he had in his old city, and how difficult it had been to leave them behind. Lila could see the vulnerability in his eyes, and it made her want to be supportive, to be someone he could trust and rely on in this new place. By the time lunch ended, Lila and Alex had learned more about each other than she expected. They shared small stories from childhood, their favorite movies, and even funny incidents from their previous schools. Lila laughed more freely than she had in a while, feeling a sense of ease she rarely experienced with new people. Alex's calm presence was comforting, and his subtle humor brought lightness to her day. After school, they walked together toward the bus stop. The conversation flowed naturally, touching on topics from the day and drifting into hopes and dreams for the future. Lila realized that their friendship was growing in ways she hadn't anticipated. It wasn't just about gratitude or coincidence anymore. It was about understanding, respect, and the joy of shared experiences. On the way, Alex mentioned that he had been thinking about volunteering at a local community center. Lila's eyes lit up. She loved helping others and had spent weekends at the shelter, organizing activities for children. They discussed their plans, and Alex seemed genuinely interested in joining her. Lila felt proud and excited that someone she admired wanted to be part of something meaningful alongside her. It wasn't just about friendship. It was about shared values and the desire to make a difference. Over the next few weeks, Lila and Alex became inseparable during school hours. They studied together, helped each other with assignments, and often stayed after school to work on projects. Teachers noticed their collaboration and praised their teamwork. Lila felt a sense of fulfillment she hadn't experienced before. It was as if saving Alex had unlocked a door to a new chapter in her life, one filled with friendship, trust, and mutual growth. One afternoon, Lila and Alex were assigned to organize a small school event for younger students. They brainstormed ideas, delegated tasks, and worked tirelessly to make it a success. Lila noticed how naturally Alex took initiative, quietly motivating others without being overbearing. She admired his patience and kindness, and she realized that she had learned from him just as much as he had learned from her. Their partnership was balanced, each contributing in ways that complemented the other. During the event, they managed to keep everything running smoothly. Children laughed and played, teachers praised their efforts, and Lila felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She glanced at Alex, who was helping a group of kids with an art activity, and felt a rush of gratitude. This young man, who she had met under stressful circumstances, had become a source of inspiration and joy in her life. It amazed her how quickly life could change, how one encounter could ripple into something so significant. After the event, they walked home together, exhausted but happy. Lila talked about her favorite moments from the day, while Alex shared his thoughts on what they could improve next time. The conversation was easy, full of laughter and gentle teasing. Lila realized that she had come to rely on these moments with Alex, that his presence had become a comforting and exciting part of her day. At one point, they stopped at a small park on their way home. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Lila and Alex sat on a bench watching the colors change. There was a quiet companionship between them, a sense of shared peace. Alex turned to her and said, "I'm really glad I met you, Lila. You've made this place feel less scary, more like it's home." Lila felt a warmth spread through her chest. "I'm glad I met you too, Alex. I never expected one night to lead to all of this." They sat there for a while, talking softly and watching the sky. Lila felt a sense of contentment she hadn't felt in a long time. The world seemed bigger and brighter, filled with possibilities. She realized that friendship could be transformative, that a single act of courage could lead to connections that changed lives. Alex's presence reminded her that life could be unexpected in the best ways, and that trust, kindness, and understanding were powerful forces. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they finally stood up and continued their walk home. Lila felt a quiet joy, a mix of gratitude and anticipation for the days ahead. She knew that their friendship was still new, that there would be challenges and adjustments, but she also knew that they would face them together. The events that had brought them together, the robbery, her courage, and his gratitude, had laid the foundation for something lasting and meaningful. That night, Lila lay in bed reflecting on the past few days. She thought about how life had a way of surprising you when you least expected it, how one small decision could ripple through time in ways you couldn't predict. She thought about Alex and the bond they were forming, and she felt a deep sense of satisfaction. It wasn't just about helping someone or being thanked. It was about the human connection, the understanding, and the shared experiences that made life richer. Lila closed her eyes with a smile, thinking about the moments they had shared, the laughter, the quiet conversations, and the support they had offered each other. She realized that courage and kindness could open doors to friendships that were both unexpected and transformative. And as she drifted off to sleep, she felt a quiet hope that their story was only just beginning, that the days ahead would bring more laughter, more shared experiences, and more moments that would strengthen the bond between them, turning a chance encounter into a lasting friendship. The following week, the bond between Lila and Alex grew stronger. They began spending more time together during breaks and after school. Lila found herself sharing things she had never told anyone, her fears, her dreams, and her hopes for the future. Alex listened patiently, offering quiet encouragement without judgment. There was a comfort in knowing that someone understood her, someone who had once been a stranger and had now become a trusted friend. One afternoon, as they walked home from school together, Alex brought up the idea of volunteering at a local community center. He seemed genuinely excited about helping, and Lila felt a sense of pride. She had been volunteering there for some time, and she knew how rewarding it could be. They decided to go together that weekend, hoping to help with activities for children and organize some creative projects. The thought of sharing this experience with Alex made Lila feel eager and alive. When Saturday arrived, Lila met Alex at the community center. Children were already running around, laughing and playing, and the staff greeted them warmly. Lila introduced Alex to the group, and he immediately fit in. He helped set up art supplies, guided children through activities, and even shared a few stories of his own childhood. Lila watched him closely, admiring his patience and gentle nature. She realized that the boy she had helped outside the diner had grown into someone who could help others in meaningful ways. As the day went on, Lila and Alex worked side by side, organizing games, helping with crafts, and keeping the children entertained. They laughed together when things didn't go as planned, like when a paint spill caused a small mess or when a group of children got too enthusiastic with their activities. Lila felt a deep sense of satisfaction, seeing the joy they were able to bring to the kids. She also felt a growing admiration for Alex, who had seamlessly become a part of this environment. During a short break, they sat together on a bench outside, sipping water and watching the children play. Alex turned to Lila and said, "I didn't expect volunteering to feel this good. I mean, I always thought helping was important, but I never realized how much it could change how you feel about yourself." Lila smiled, understanding exactly what he meant. "It does," she said softly. "It's like you're giving a little of yourself, and in return, you get something bigger than you expected. And sharing it with someone else makes it even better." They spent the rest of the afternoon helping with cleanup and organizing materials for future activities. As they walked home, their conversation shifted from the day's events to more personal topics. Alex shared more about his life before moving, the friends he had left behind, and the struggles he faced in adjusting to a new city. Lila listened, feeling a mix of empathy and admiration. She realized how much courage it took for him to open up and trust her, someone he had only known for a short time. Lila, in turn, shared her own experiences, balancing school and work, the responsibilities she carried at home, and her dreams of pursuing something meaningful in life. Alex listened intently, offering support and encouragement. Their conversations were effortless, flowing naturally from one topic to another, and Lila found herself feeling lighter, as if a weight had been lifted simply by talking to him. Over the next few days, their friendship continued to deepen. They started studying together after school, helping each other with homework and preparing for upcoming exams. Lila discovered that Alex had a sharp mind and a creative approach to problem solving. She admired his dedication and the way he remained calm under pressure. In turn, Alex appreciated Lila's determination and her ability to balance so many responsibilities with grace. One afternoon, as they walked home from a long study session, Alex asked Lila about her plans for the future. She hesitated at first, unsure how much to reveal, but eventually shared her hopes of going to college and making a difference in her community. Alex listened carefully, nodding thoughtfully. "You're going to do great things, Lila," he said sincerely. "I can see it already. You have this strength and kindness that people notice, even if they don't say it out loud." Lila felt a warmth in her chest, appreciating his words more than she could express. The following week, Alex invited Lila to join him at a local library where he liked to read and study. They spent hours exploring books, discussing their favorite stories, and sharing ideas. Lila enjoyed these quiet moments, feeling a sense of calm and connection that she hadn't experienced before. Alex had a way of making ordinary experiences feel meaningful, and she cherished the time they spent together. Their friendship was not without challenges. There were moments of misunderstanding, small disagreements, and days when one of them felt overwhelmed by schoolwork or personal issues. But each time they found a way to communicate, to understand, and to support each other. Lila realized that true friendship wasn't about perfection. It was about being there for one another through the ups and downs, and learning from each other along the way. One afternoon, as they walked through a quiet neighborhood park, Alex shared a personal story about a time he had felt alone and uncertain about his future. Lila listened, offering comfort and reassurance. "You're not alone anymore," she said softly. "And even when things are hard, you'll find your way. I believe in you." Alex smiled, clearly touched by her words. "I believe in you too, Lila," he replied. "You've shown me courage in ways I didn't expect. You've made me stronger just by being yourself." The park became their little haven, a place where they could talk freely, share dreams, and reflect on their experiences. Lila began to notice that these moments with Alex were shaping her perspective on life. She felt more confident, more open to new experiences, and more willing to take risks, knowing she had someone she could trust and rely on. As weeks passed, their bond grew stronger, and Lila found herself looking forward to each day with a sense of anticipation. She realized that the young man she had saved outside the diner had become an integral part of her life, someone who inspired her and brought joy into her everyday routine. Alex, in turn, continued to demonstrate his gratitude and admiration for Lila, not just in words, but through his actions, thoughtfulness, and unwavering support. One evening, as they walked home together after volunteering at the community center again, Alex paused and looked at Lila seriously. "You know," he said quietly, "that night outside the diner, it changed my life. I don't think I would be who I am today if you hadn't stepped in, I just wanted you to know that." Lila felt a lump in her throat, touched by the sincerity in his voice. "I'm glad I could help," she replied softly. "But I think it changed me too. Meeting you, getting to know you, it's made me see things differently. Life feels a little brighter somehow." They walked the rest of the way in comfortable silence, each lost in thought but feeling connected in a way that words couldn't fully capture. Lila realized that friendship, courage, and kindness were powerful forces, capable of creating lasting bonds and shaping lives in ways that were both subtle and profound. She felt grateful for the journey they had begun together, and for the unexpected ways life had brought them together. That night, as Lila lay in bed, she reflected on the weeks that had passed since that fateful night outside the diner. She thought about Alex, the experiences they had shared, and the growth they had inspired in each other. She realized that the true value of their connection was not just in the moments of bravery or gratitude, but in the ongoing support, understanding, and companionship that had developed between them. And as she drifted off to sleep, she felt a sense of hope and excitement for the future, knowing that their friendship was only beginning, and that many more adventures, challenges, and shared experiences awaited them. Teen Waitress Saves Stranger Part 5As. The school year moved forward. Lila and Alex continued to spend time together, their friendship growing stronger with each passing day. They had shared countless laughs, tackled difficult projects, and supported each other through personal challenges. Lila noticed how much more confident she felt, how much she looked forward to each day, and how the presence of Alex had become a source of comfort and inspiration. One afternoon, they were walking home together after helping at the community center. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows on the quiet streets. Lila felt a sense of calm and contentment. She realized how much she had grown since the night outside the diner, the night that had seemed ordinary at the time but had ultimately changed everything. Alex walked beside her, carrying a small backpack with art supplies they had used to organize an activity for the children. His presence felt reassuring, like a steady hand guiding her through unfamiliar terrain. As they reached a quiet park along their route, they decided to sit on a bench for a while. Alex turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "Lila, I've been meaning to say this for a while," he began. "That night outside the diner, you didn't just save me. You showed me that there are people who care even when life feels overwhelming. I don't think I would have found my place here without you." Lila felt a lump form in her throat, touched by the depth of his words. She looked at him and smiled softly. "I'm glad I could help, Alex, but I think you've helped me too. You've made life feel more exciting and meaningful, just by being part of it." They sat in silence for a few moments, watching children play in the distance, their laughter carrying on the breeze. Lila reflected on how far they had come, from a chance encounter to a friendship that had become an essential part of her daily life. She felt proud of Alex for adapting to his new environment, for stepping out of his comfort zone, and for embracing opportunities to grow. She also realized how much she had grown, learning patience, empathy, and courage through their shared experiences. Over the next several weeks, Lila and Alex continued to deepen their connection. They studied together, volunteered together, and even explored their town, discovering small cafes, bookstores, and parks they hadn't noticed before. Each adventure was filled with laughter, conversation, and moments of quiet reflection. They discovered shared interests in books, music, and art, often exchanging recommendations and encouraging each other to pursue their passions. One day, as they were walking home from the library, Alex turned to Lila with a serious expression. "I was thinking," he said, "about how we met and how much has happened since then. It's amazing to think that one night could lead to all of this." Lila nodded, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "It really is. Life can surprise you in the most unexpected ways. I never thought saving someone would lead to a friendship like this." They shared a quiet laugh, remembering the fear and chaos of that night, and how quickly it had turned into something meaningful. Lila realized that the bond they shared was built on trust, respect, and shared experiences, not just the circumstances that had brought them together. It was a friendship that had grown naturally, one that neither of them could have predicted but both cherished deeply. As the semester drew to a close, their friendship was stronger than ever. Teachers noticed their positive influence on each other, classmates admired their teamwork, and Lila felt a sense of accomplishment and joy. She reflected on how much she had learned from Alex, patience, understanding, and the courage to face challenges with grace. In turn, she knew she had helped Alex feel more confident, welcomed, and supported in a new environment. Their friendship was a two-way street, each giving and receiving in ways that were meaningful and lasting. One evening, after a long day at school, Lila and Alex found themselves sitting on a hill overlooking the town. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink as the sun set, and the breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers. They sat in comfortable silence, each lost in thought but feeling connected. Alex finally spoke, his voice soft and reflective. "Lila, I just want to thank you again. Not just for that night, but for everything. For being my friend, for believing in me, for helping me see that life can be brighter. I can't imagine where I'd be without you." Lila felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, moved by his sincerity. "Alex, I feel the same. You've made my life richer, happier, and more meaningful. I'm grateful for every moment we've shared." They sat together, watching the sun dip below the horizon, reflecting on the journey they had taken from strangers to close friends. Lila realized that the courage to act, the choice to help someone in need, and the willingness to connect with another person had created something far greater than either of them had anticipated. Their friendship had become a source of strength, joy, and inspiration, a bond that would continue to grow, no matter what challenges lay ahead. As the school year ended, Lila and Alex found themselves preparing for the summer break. They talked about plans for volunteering, exploring the town, and spending time together. Each plan was filled with excitement and anticipation, a reflection of the trust and connection they had built. Lila felt a sense of pride in how far they had come, and a quiet hope for the future, knowing that their friendship would continue to flourish. On the last day of school, as they walked home together one final time before summer break, Lila reflected on the journey that had started with a single act of courage. She remembered the fear and uncertainty of that night, the gratitude in Alex's eyes, and the bond that had grown since then. She realized that life's most meaningful connections often arose from unexpected moments, moments that required bravery, empathy, and an open heart. Alex turned to her, smiling. "Ready for summer adventures?" he asked. Lila grinned, feeling a sense of excitement and possibility. "Absolutely. Let's make it a summer to remember." They walked together side by side, knowing that their friendship had become a defining part of their lives. What began as a chance encounter outside a diner had transformed into a deep, lasting bond built on trust, courage, and shared experiences. That night, as Lila lay in bed, she thought about the journey she and Alex had taken. She realized that small acts of kindness and bravery could have far-reaching consequences, shaping lives and forming connections that endured over time. She thought about the ways and Alex had inspired her, the ways she had helped him, and the countless moments of laughter, conversation, and support they had shared. With a quiet smile, she drifted off to sleep, knowing that their story was just beginning, and that the bond they had formed would continue to guide, inspire, and bring joy to both their lives for years to come. The summer passed in a blur of sunshine and long days, but for Lila and Alex it was filled with adventure, growth, and deepening friendship. They spent their mornings volunteering at the community center, helping with activities for children, organizing games, and teaching art projects. Their afternoons were often filled with exploring the town, visiting quiet parks, little bookstores, and small cafes where they could sit for hours, talking about everything and nothing. It was a rhythm of life that felt both exciting and comforting, a continuation of the bond that had started on that fateful night outside the diner. One afternoon, as they walked along a tree-lined street, Lila noticed Alex looking thoughtful. "What's on your mind?" she asked. He shrugged slightly, glancing at her with a small smile. "Just thinking about how much has changed since we met. I never imagined that one night could lead to all of this. Friendship, confidence, and even a sense of purpose." "It's unexpected, but in a good way." Lila nodded, understanding perfectly. She knew exactly what he meant because she felt the same way. That single moment of courage had led to something much bigger than either of them could have predicted. They found a quiet spot in the park and sat on a bench, sharing a snack from a small bakery they liked. Alex pulled out a small notebook and began sketching ideas for an art project he had in mind for the children at the community center. Lila watched him work, impressed by the creativity and care he put into his drawings. She offered a few suggestions, and they worked together, combining ideas, laughing, and encouraging each other. There was a comfort in these shared moments, a sense that they were creating something meaningful while also enjoying each other's company. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting everything in shades of gold and orange, Alex spoke again. "Lila, I've been thinking. We've done so many things this summer, but I want to do something bigger, something that leaves a mark not just for us but for others too." Lila looked at him intrigued. "What do you mean?" she asked. He paused for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "I mean a project at the community center that really helps kids, maybe a summer art camp or a small exhibition of their work. Something they can be proud of." Lila's eyes lit up. She had been hoping for something like that too, and she felt a surge of excitement. "That's a great idea, Alex. We could plan activities, showcase their art, and maybe even invite parents and friends. It could be a big event for them." Over the next few weeks, they poured their energy into planning the project. They spoke with the community center staff, coordinated schedules, gathered materials, and brainstormed creative activities. Lila admired Alex's dedication and organization, and she realized how much he had grown over the past months. He was no longer the nervous newcomer she had met outside the diner. He was confident, thoughtful, and determined to make a difference, and she felt proud to be his partner in this endeavor. They worked tirelessly, often spending long afternoons at the center, guiding the children through art and craft activities, encouraging them to express themselves and helping them build confidence. Lila noticed how the children responded to Alex's calm guidance and his kind words. They looked up to him just as she had, and it filled her with joy to see the impact they were making together. The project became more than just an activity. It became a celebration of creativity, friendship, and community. Finally, the day of the exhibition arrived. Lila and Alex had transformed a section of the community center into a vibrant space filled with the children's artwork, colorful decorations, and displays of their efforts over the summer. Parents, friends, and community members began to arrive, their faces lighting up with admiration and pride as they saw the children's creations. Lila and Alex stood together, quietly taking it all in, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. As the event went on, the children proudly showed off their work, pointing to paintings, sculptures, and crafts they had made. Lila felt tears welling up in her eyes as she watched their joy and confidence. Alex leaned slightly toward her and whispered, "We did it, Lila. Look at them, they're proud, happy, and inspired. This is what it's all about." Lila nodded, feeling a mix of pride and gratitude. "Yes, Alex, we did it together, and it feels amazing." After the exhibition, as the crowd began to leave, Lila and Alex took a moment to walk outside, the warm evening air surrounding them. They talked quietly about the day, about how the project had gone, and about the joy of seeing the children so happy and confident. Lila realized that their friendship had reached a new depth, not just about shared experiences, but about shared purpose and making a real difference in the lives of others. That night, as Lila lay in bed, she reflected on the journey she and Alex had taken. From a night of fear and uncertainty outside the diner to a summer filled with meaningful experiences, laughter, and growth. It had been a journey of courage, friendship, and connection. She realized that life could change in a single moment, and that acts of kindness, bravery, and empathy could ripple out in ways that were profound and lasting. Over the following weeks, Lila and Alex continued to explore their town, volunteer at the community center, and support each other through school challenges. They had built a strong foundation of trust, understanding, and mutual respect. Their bond was unshakable, a reminder of how one moment of courage had led to an enduring friendship that enriched both of their lives. One afternoon, as they walked home from the center, Alex turned to Lila and said, "Do you ever think about that night outside the diner? How much has changed since then?" Lila smiled, remembering the fear, the adrenaline, and the gratitude she had felt. "I think about it often," she admitted. "It feels like a turning point, not just for you, but for me too. Meeting you changed how I see the world, how I see myself." Alex nodded thoughtfully. "It changed me too, Lila. You showed me that courage and kindness matter, that connection can make all the difference." "I don't know how to thank you enough." Lila placed her hand gently on his arm. "You don't need to thank me. Just keep being the amazing person you are, and we'll keep making a difference together." As the summer ended, they prepared to return to school for the new semester. Both felt a sense of anticipation and excitement, knowing that their friendship had grown into something meaningful and enduring. They had shared experiences that would stay with them for years. Lessons in courage, empathy, and teamwork that had shaped who they were becoming. Lila knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, supporting each other and growing along the way. The first day of the new semester brought a renewed sense of purpose. Lila and Alex greeted each other with their familiar smiles, ready to tackle new projects, help their classmates, and continue their volunteering work. Their friendship was now an integral part of their lives, a constant source of encouragement, laughter, and inspiration. And as they walked through the school halls together, they knew that the bond they had formed from a single act of courage outside a diner had become a lifelong connection. That evening, as Lila reflected on the events of the past year, she realized how powerful one moment of bravery could be. Saving Alex had not only changed his life, but it had also shaped her own in ways she never could have imagined. She felt gratitude for the journey, for the experiences they had shared, and for the growth they had inspired in each other. Lila knew that life would continue to bring challenges, surprises, and opportunities, but she also knew that with friendship, courage, and empathy, anything was possible. As she drifted off to sleep that night, Lila felt a quiet joy and contentment. She thought about Alex, their shared adventures, and the bond they had created. She knew that their story was far from over, that the friendship that had begun with a single act of kindness would continue to grow, inspire, and bring happiness into their lives for many years to come. And with that comforting thought, she closed her eyes, ready for whatever the future held, knowing that courage, empathy, and friendship could turn even the smallest moments into something extraordinary as forever. Alex had inspired her, the ways she had helped him, and the countless moments of laughter, conversation, and support they had shared. With a quiet smile, she drifted off to sleep, knowing that their story was just beginning, and that the bond they had formed would continue to guide, inspire, and bring joy to both their lives for years to come. The summer passed in a blur of sunshine and long days, but for Lila and Alex it was filled with adventure, growth, and deepening friendship. They spent their mornings volunteering at the community center, helping with activities for children, organizing games, and teaching art projects. Their afternoons were often filled with exploring the town, visiting quiet parks, little bookstores, and small cafes where they could sit for hours, talking about everything and nothing. It was a rhythm of life that felt both exciting and comforting, a continuation of the bond that had started on that fateful night outside the diner. One afternoon, as they walked along a T,